Beg your pardon? Meredith, who is this coarse person with the foreign accent?
All right, hey, welcome, Joey. You'll get an award here right away for being the most prepared guest so far. Can you talk us through the sheet you sent me? Did you use any AI to draft this?
I think I'd be doing a disservice to the world today if I didn't use AI. But I'm a bit of a prompt master, so I did help me. I had an idea of what I wanted to cover, but it pretty much did the formatting. I didn't let it identify, who gets what and how many games, etc. Right? So there's still a human touch to this, but AI was utilized, I must admit.
No, it's excellent. It's excellent. We're going to try to get through the whole thing. By the way, for those listeners who haven't yet heard, I don't know what hockey and aviation have to do with each other, but let Joey answer that in the previous episode. It's called, what was it called? Planes, drones, and UFO mobiles. It's from 6 months ago or so.
Yeah, sounds about right.
Yeah, but more about flying. We might touch on flying at the very end, but let's get into hockey. You have to give me and everyone else, like, I've been a terrible hockey watcher this year, so where do we start?
Well, look, I have to start, you know, I am a little biased towards my Tampa Bay Lightning, so you might see some of that bias come out a little bit, but just take that with a grain of salt. No, look, I think a lot of incredible things have happened this year. It's been a wild season. There's teams that are out of the playoffs that were intending to be in the playoffs. There's teams that now are in the playoffs that were not going to be in the playoffs, i.e. the Buffalo Sabres after, what it's 11, 12, 13 seasons. We'll get into that in a sec, but crazy things. But I think that what's top of mind right now is last night I watched what may have been Alex Ovechkin's last game in the NHL. And for those who don't know, he is the greatest goal scorer of all time. Broke Wayne Gretzky's record last year, and I think I put it in here into this beautiful AI document. I think he was at 939, I think, as of last night in his last game. So. And it kind of hit me. I very rarely get emotional in hockey unless like my team's winning the Stanley Cup. But he was part of my like childhood, my youth, or I guess as a young adult, right? In 2005, which would have been my draft year, 2005, 2006, right? So, with him possibly not coming back, it's kind of like a end of an era. Kind of got me a little bit, but that's some big news. That's some big news that is kind of just fresh, hot off the press.
Yeah, I used to play with some people who ended up going pro and realizing that us who have normal jobs have half of our careers to go at least, whereas theirs are over. Because I'm 36 now. There'll be maybe two of them are still playing, and they'll be like they basically are there for locker room presence as an old veteran for the playoffs now. Like they're not even stars anymore.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's exactly. It's like a good example of that is Corey Perry and the Tampa Bay Lightning. I think he's 40 this year, maybe 39. He can still score goals, but he's slow. He's had to change his game. But he was brought in at the trade deadline to be a locker room guy, right? To get the team going, bring that experience into the room, and hopefully help get the team over the hump. So, yeah, you're absolutely right.
With Ovechkin, like, what an unbelievable career, and I think underrated. If someone who's a mega star can be underrated, it's almost like people say actually Tiger Woods is underrated. When you really look into the stats, he should be way bigger of a star than he even was, even though he was the most famous person on earth for a while. The same with Ovechkin, like 900 goals in a career that is spanned from what, 2003 to.
I think 2005, 2006
Yeah,
season, I think is his first.
but he had a year in the Russian pros for a year before he went to the NHL, right? Or
I think so. Yes, I think so. And I from what I understand too, that's what he's contemplating is, do I continue in the NHL or do I go play for my home team in the KHL in Russia, right? So, time will tell. Time will tell.
yeah. But in the KHL, I mean, the speed's pretty tough, and he is old. I don't know if he would be just a lock-in on St. Petersburg KHL team or wherever he's from.
I don't know. I think with enough money, I think he can do anything. But he's got that. He's known for he's got that the office, quote unquote, the office, right? Just kind of the top of the circle where he just blasts them on the power play. I mean, that's where I think he scores. That and empty netters is where he scores. 65%
Yeah.
of his goals. So I think it's possible.
Yeah. I mean, 900 goals is crazy. He's never mentioned as one of the all-time greats because it's so North America biased that a Russian who off ice has had some weird political takes and but he's never up there. People would rather choose his main rival, Sidney Crosby, if someone from this era would be in the top three all time.
Yeah, it's interesting, and too, there's an ongoing argument too around who's the greatest Russian player of all time, and right now the argument is between Alex Ovechkin and Nikita Kucherov, because Nikita Kucherov is much more of a two-way player. He's not the goal scorer, but he's racking up almost 100 assists a season, right? And he's just one of those players that are just quietly smooth and silky and gets the job done. And other podcasts like Spit and Chicklets, etc. They're always talking about who's the greatest Russian, and those two are kind of battling it out for I think that trophy at the moment. But we'll see. I think with Nikita Kucherov still being I think in his prime, I think he'll surpass Ovechkin overall. He won't hit that 900 goal mark, but it won't even come close. But he's a better. I think Kucherov's a better two-way player. So
Well, he'll have twice the amount of assists as Ovechkin at the end of his
yeah.
career, I think. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. I mean, Ovechkin's an incredible player, but greatest goal scorer of all time. But when you're talking, you mentioned Sidney Crosby, the Pittsburgh Penguins. He's a better all-around player. He plays, offensive minded, defensive minded. He plays, up and down the ice. So I think when you're talking
Yeah.
about just kind of like who's the better player overall between the Sidney Crosby and Ovechkin rivalry, which has been incredible the past 20 years, I think you got to put the ball in Sidney's court just as the better all-around player for sure.
Yes, and then the other thing is here across the pond, European hockey fans care way more about international achievements than the NHL on average. And he never won an Olympic gold for Russia, never really came close. Like those national team performances were always a little disappointing. So there's that kind
Yeah.
of. Not that Kucherov will win one either, because I don't know if the Russians will even be invited anymore. So yeah. And what about Tretyak?
Yeah, I mean, he's a classic. I mean, you got to put him up there, I guess.
Yeah, I mean this game was played a bit before these guys' time. I mean
Yeah.
Tretyak, the Red Machine, all of those guys.
Yeah. Well, I tell you what, you take a player nowadays and put him back in the 70s, 80s, and even early 90s. They wouldn't be it was a much different game. There's a lot of pulling and hacking, and you could get away with a lot more, and it was a tougher game. So I don't think the game's so open and so fast now. They wouldn't be the same players. They absolutely would not be.
And goaltending has had these like quantum leaps of figuring out technique to the point where someone like me, who's not even athletic, if I just had modern goaltending coaching and equipment, I would have the same kind of save percentages as Tretyak in some games,
Yeah, for sure.
Just by going down into the butterfly position, you stop half the shots nowadays. So,
Yeah.
back in the day, they were jumping around like soccer goalies.
It's actually quite comical to watch sometimes, and you wonder why. It's like no wonder why. I mean, I'm not throwing shade at Wayne Gretzky, but it's like no wonder why he had however many goals he had. The goalies are standing straight up. To your point, like just jumping across the crease. But
Yeah. You put in your wonderful, amazing pre-episode notes, you put to discuss the shift from the chase to the celebration of Ovechkin. This is a really good point, actually, because I was really into the chase of Gretzky's record. Not
yeah,
partially because I had a big bet that he would do it with a mutual friend of ours, Oscar, who still hasn't paid. So
Okay,
if you're
yeah.
listening, pay up. I had a big bet on it, so that was part of it. And when he reached it, I kind of lost interest. I don't think I've watched specifically gone and looked at an Ovechkin goal since, unless it pops up in a feed somewhere if he did something incredible, but he doesn't anymore. He's in his office, like you said, and scores that auto goal.
No, you're right. I mean, honestly, I mean, I made a point this year. I was in DC for work, and I made a point. I'm like, you know what? This might be his last year. I'm going to go to a Caps game. So I, hiked a couple miles. I went to a Caps game, saw Ovechkin, and then last night I was like, oh, it was a nationally televised game. I was like, oh, you know what? I'm going to watch the last 5 minutes of this game. As it might be his last. But to your point, yeah, it was just after he scored, broke, Gretzky's record. I was like, all right, well, cool. And then it lost its kind of its excitement for sure. He's just not the same player. He's a great player, but he's not the same player he was in terms of speed, and tenacity. He plays a different game. You have to change your game as you get older.
And it's one of those where that a record will be cool to go back to 5 years from now, 10 years from now. You'll go watch the goal. Oh my God, I can't believe this happened. Maybe it doesn't register yet because, I mean, for us, our whole lives, we were told that Gretzky's records would never be touched.
That's right.
And this guy touched one of them and went way past as well. Like, not even just broke it, but broke it pretty comfortably. And potentially still has a year or two in him.
Yeah, I mean, if he played another season, I mean, 2 seasons, he could potentially get 1,000 career goals, which is insane. I mean, 939 goals is insane in itself, but you're talking 1,000. That's just crazy talk.
And he's got 700 of those are empty netters, right? That's
Actually, I'd be curious to know. I mean, he's got a lot of empty netters, but we'll have to look that one up.
yeah. If anyone's listening who knows the actual percentage, this would be fascinating. Just send it in. Yeah. The other guy who made us feel old is also from you. I didn't even realize this, but Jonathan Quick. Wow, like he was a young stud when it feels like 5 years ago.
Oh yeah, no, and all the goalies. I mean, Price, Miller, Quick. Now, I mean, like there's an era of goaltending. It's gone. It's kind of like with Ovechkin possibly leaving. It's like our youth is departing the game officially, right? So he's another big one. I mean, but yeah, he was a stud in LA. He got those 2 cups. I mean, and he's American. I think he's an American goaltender as well. The U.S. seems to produce some solid goaltenders. I mean, Hellebuck, right, with getting the gold recently. I mean, he won that game for the U.S.
Yeah,
In the
yeah.
Olympics, right? So
It was his first clutch performance that I've seen for Hellebuck now, not Quick. Quick has plenty of them, but Hellebuck has had a bit of a reputation of melting down in those spots.
yeah,
But
in the
yeah,
playoffs, yeah, he hasn't been a good performer in the playoffs because he's been on some good teams there with the Winnipeg Jets that have gone decently deep, but he just kind of, to your point, yeah, he hasn't shown that ability to come up big in those big moments. But maybe that'll change now that he has that experience. Maybe that'll change. So
Quick is one of those that also will never be mentioned on a list of the greatest goalies, but this is a hell of a career. Like he was the national team goalie for a while as well. So like really
yeah.
impressive career, but never going to be mentioned as one of the greats. 2 Stanley Cups, right?
Yep, yeah, in LA. And I respect how he's going out too. He left LA and went to the Rangers and he accepted his role. He was kind of like, all right, I'm gonna be a backup. But then he stepped up. I think Shesterkin in New York got hurt for a while, so he stepped up. Yeah, I feel like he's going out gracefully. Some
Yeah.
some goalies or even players, they just try to kind of hold on too long, and they don't look very good as they're kind of on their going through their last dance. But I feel like he's going out on top.
Yeah, good for him. Retiring at Madison Square Garden as well.
Yeah, not bad.
Speaking of which, Shesterkin, though, I feel like there's a bit of a New York inflation in that guy.
Yeah, New York is one of those teams that kind of had higher expectations at the beginning of the season, but have just shit the bed. This just does not look good.
Yeah, and him specifically, like it feels like there's this because of the New York media and East Coast thing, big hockey town, MSG. If you play one great season, you're just for life. There's this like view that you're like a great goalie,
Yeah.
and I don't see him having a Jonathan Quick career by the end of this.
No, for sure. And you kind of bring up an interesting point in terms of like media markets and pressure. It's interesting. You look at markets like New York and Toronto, right? Like these, especially Toronto, which I'm sure we'll get into. But there's just like so much pressure where they have great season and they're praised, but then it's like they have one bad season and it's over. And I think this it gets in the players' heads being in those type of markets. And I think the trends speak for themselves when we look at those teams and how they perform, or the lack of performance in reality. So I think that's interesting.
The next story here, I think it's well known our loyalties to Florida hockey, but I also joked about switching my loyalties because now it's I was in Florida for 10 years until those teams won everything, and now I feel like I have to move to the next place, and I picked Utah as a no state tax.
There you go.
Look at me, I think perhaps I'm the reason why they're great now instantly.
Yeah, there. I was disappointed that they left Arizona. I mean, I love teams in the desert. I think it's great for hockey, but obviously their location was struggling, right? So I was definitely disappointed. But it's A, the Mammoths logo and jersey, I think, are pretty amazing. I think they're pretty sick. So that helps a market for sure. But they have been a clutch team this year. Fun to watch, fast, a lot of youth. I don't know how they're going to do in the first round. I think we'll get into matchups here shortly, but great. I mean, first season, just like when Vegas Golden Knights entered the league, right? Their first season, they went to the Stanley Cup, which is unheard of. I don't think they're going to go to the Cup by any means, but you never know. You never know. I think the West is a little more wide open than the East. The East has got some powerhouses, but I feel like the West could be potentially anybody's game, especially if once one of the big boys get knocked off, like Colorado, in an upset early on. And I think it could be up for grabs, but it's a long shot. It's a long shot, but I think it's great. Yeah, they're a fun team to watch.
The Mormons up there in Utah loving hockey, it seems like.
I assume, yeah. The only disadvantage of having a team in Utah is when you pay $20 for a beer. I think you're capped at like 3.5% alcohol
Oh my.
percentage. So you gotta drink a lot of beers to get that little buzz that you want while you're kicking back and watching a hockey games.
Well, let the Lord give you the best buzz there is, you know? That's how they feel. But so American stadium beer prices have gotten to over $20. Is that true?
In some places, I mean, there's some you can. I mean, look, I was in DC recently. I went to a game and I think I paid 18.50 for a tall boy. It was
What?
insanity, right? But then I've been to other arenas where I'm paying 13.50, $15, but it's outrageous. It's no Masters where you can get a beer for $6.50. Uh,
Mm.
but but uh, but yeah, it's astronomical beer prices at stadiums now. Yeah.
What are they trying to like regain the money from the construction one beer at a time? Like this isn't great business. What are you doing? That's more expensive than like the center of Oslo or Reykjavik or something. Like what?
Well, the crazy thing is people keep paying it. So, if you build it, they will come, so it's I say we mutiny and we just don't buy our beers when we go to hockey games anymore. Maybe they'll bring it down. We'll see.
Yeah, that's cool. Are there any stars in Utah, by the way? Or are they just a hardworking extended Florida team?
Yeah, I don't recall what their names are, but there's a few young stars, like rising stars, that are coming through the ranks. Like I can't recall the individual's name, but there's about three players that are lighting it up for them that are fast, quick, and young. Very similar, kind of like Celebrini there in San Jose, who's just a incredible young player to watch. They're kind of keeping pace with him. So.
Okay. Speaking of young stars, you sent me Nick Suzuki. Did they make the playoffs, Montreal Canadiens, by the way?
They did, and our Tampa Bay Lightning are going to be facing them in the first round. So that's a big one, which is cool because Martin St. Louis, who is a Lightning Hall of Famer, is their coach. So that's kind of just a fun matchup that I'm personally looking forward to. But yeah, they've made the playoffs. And this Nick Suzuki, again, young, small like St. Louis was. I think St. Louis, on skates was 5'9", right? And Nick Suzuki, I think, is a similar statute, but he flies just like St. Louis. He moves his feet. He's quick. He's smart. I mean, he had his 100-point season, and it's the first time for the Canadians. And what is it? Oh, since 1986 was the last time they had a player with over 100 points. That's a long
That's
time for a Canadian market. That's
that's
crazy.
crazy.
Yeah, yeah. So I look, if the Lightning weren't playing them in the first round, I'd be rooting for them. But obviously, that's not the case.
Montreal, yeah, we're a big French Canada podcast, but I have to say that's a bad sign. I mean, they made it once to the Stanley Cup Finals in the COVID year without a single star player, and the 100-point guys, they're not good really on average in the playoffs, right? Like, what was the last team that had mega stars that dominated the points on the team that won?
I mean, I think the Lightning. I think Kucherov is a pretty good example of one of those players, but he's a unique. I feel like a unique superstar in the way he plays. But I think you're right. The playoffs are just a different. If you watch the regular season, if you're just the average Joe, and you'd watch the regular season, and then you watch the playoffs, you will, even as a fan, you'll notice the difference. It's visually different. It's visually faster. It's more fierce. It's physical. It is just a different game. So to your point, like, 100, a lot of 100-point guys, they don't perform the same. You have to change your game a little bit to kind of push through in the playoffs. So, we'll see.
Yeah, it's interesting regular season wise. I mean, the NFL is so much better than anything else because every game matters so much, especially within the division. It's like your season is over if you lose two of those. The NHL long regular season that kind of gets to be a drag. Same problem in the NBA, which they've tried to fix with some kind of silly tournament in the middle of it. What the fuck?
Yeah.
But then, so you go out of the NFL, when that ends, then you have, golf season for a second, you get the Masters, and then we go instantly into the best playoffs in the world, and that's the NHL. Like, while the
Amen.
NHL playoffs are on, you don't have to worry about any of this other garbage like football or golf or basketball, anything.
Truth.
Like, this is the show, And it's nice that the year is broken up like this. I get back into golf in the summer for the other majors because I don't need baseball and all that jazz in my life. So I got golf later.
That's right. Well, it's funny. After playoffs are over, I kind of go into a little bit of a lull because I casually follow football. I watch golf, right? But like I'm just such a diehard hockey fan that I really don't care about anything else. So it's like I go through the summer. It's pool season. I'm at the pool. I'm sitting there going, man. I have this thought that comes through my mind every year. I go, I can't wait for hockey season to start again. It's just yeah. I definitely I miss it once it's gone for sure.
Yeah. And it's tough because then it's suddenly like those games, especially for us in Europe. You watch the Stanley Cup final, it's the middle of the night and it's already summer, and then like the sun starts going up and it's not happening for another year, right? Like, and you have that hazy, you haven't slept, it's sunny, you feel guilty about everything, and there's no more hockey for a year. Yeah, I get the feeling. Hey, we've fluffed Kucherov enough here. You had him in your notes. Probably gonna get the MVP unless it goes to that other guy, McDavid, who we also have fluffed enough on this show before. Everyone knows Connor McDavid. Watch him. Anyone else we should be watching? Specific individuals.
Here's the thing. I think, yes, I mean, there's absolutely star power, McKinnon on the Avalanche, right? He's just a dog to watch. Fast, strong, two-way player. Basically, kind of the past 3, 4 seasons, it's been like McDavid, Kucherov, McKinnon. Those three leading the pack year after year, right? So he's one that's always very exciting to watch. But here's the thing about hockey nowadays. If you're in the playoffs or any team, the league is so competitive. Even teams that don't have a bona fide superstar, there are players that can move, can skate, right? They kind of stand out a little bit more than the rest of the team. Not as much as a McDavid or a McKinnon or a Kucherov, right? But there's just so much top to bottom talent, especially in playoff teams, that when you're watching, especially as a casual fan, it is so exciting to see how they can move the puck so quickly, so fast, so accurately. So, long-winded way of saying, yeah, there's some superstars that we should be watching as well, but every team has such incredible talent that it's fun to watch.
Yeah. The one thing I specifically like in the hockey playoffs is the old, grizzled, kind of tough guy veterans who suddenly they come alive. They don't care about the regular season. They just try to survive and stay healthy. And then they become themselves again. And they just suddenly score 8 goals in the first 2 series, all of them in overtime to win the games. And like these guys come out of nowhere. What do we have in that category? Is it Tom Wilson again? Well, he's not going to make it. So
No, he's not going to make it. So let's see. So like, let's kind of like we got well, Buffalo Sabres. They're a young. I think they're a younger team. I don't know if they have too much experience. We got Ottawa, Boston, Tampa Bay. I know Tampa Bay very well. Who stands out there is Corey Perry, who we mentioned. Right, he's one of those players that like
still
probably
there.
will come out of his shell. He's still there.
Yeah.
He'll probably have some crazy game winner. Um,
He's going to lose in the finals, right? Corey Perry always loses in the final.
well, maybe we'll. I know that's the one thing that when Bolts picked him up, I said, "Ah, man, now the curse." But maybe he's got to break it. He's got to break it at some point, right? Has to, or that will go down. He'll have to be in the Hall of Fame just for that. I think it's this would be. Is it 6 seasons, 5 seasons straight? He went to the Stanley Cup, six or something
And
crazy, and
lost.
and lost every time. Oh, painful. I feel for the guy.
I don't feel that bad for him because I remember what a dirty rat he's been in
Oh,
his
he's a
career.
rat. He's the worm. His nickname is the worm.
Yes. Plus, he has won. He has a championship from like 2006, 7 in Anaheim. He won it with Teemu Selänne. So 2007, he got one. Therefore, I don't feel that bad for him. To be honest, he has like some forgotten things that he probably ruined Patrick Laine's career when he was really young and he was a rising superstar. He clipped him in the World Championships in an international game. And it's a meaningless group stage game as well. Like both teams were going to make it to the quarterfinals anyway, and clipped him really dirtily. So there are some moments that you kind of go,
Yeah.
I'm not sure I like this person.
Yeah, but he's one of those guys you definitely want on your team in the playoffs. You want that grit. But when he's
Yeah,
not on your team, you hate his guts. It's kind of like Marchand on he was with Boston for many years. Now he's with the Panthers. It's like you hate his guts. He's a dirtbag. He's a rat. Again, that's his nickname, the rat. Right? But when he's
yeah,
on your team, like, damn, I love this guy.
yeah.
You know?
Marchand, yes.
But one guy that stands out, speaking of old guys though, I think he's on the Colorado Avalanche, who have I think one of the top contenders to win the cup this year is Brent Burns, who's I think in his 40s. He's been in the league forever and been on some incredible teams, but he's never won a cup. So he's one of those guys like if the Lightning don't make it, yeah, it's like for a Western team. That's a team I'd root for because of that reason. Like, get this guy a cup. He's been working his rear off for
Yeah.
20 plus years. Like, get this guy a cup, So we'll
So
see.
him I root for, not that dirty on the ice. I don't know anything about these people off the ice, but him, I would root for him to get one. Um, they might make him a forward in these playoffs just to mix it up and get maybe he's the guy who scores the goals.
There you go. There you
Yeah,
go.
yeah. And the other thing in the playoffs, we're almost there when we get to the actual matchups that we have. But one thing I wanted to mention also, the reason why these playoffs are crazy, and I don't know if I love it or I hate it. Maybe I love it because it's so different from the regular season. Some context for casual listeners is that the referees just pack up and go home. There are no rules in the NHL playoffs. That might be exaggerating a little bit, but it's nuts. They can get away with anything. Like, oh, let the boys play.
Yeah, no, you're right, and that causes a little bit of controversies for sometimes, because like some people want the consistency, some people want the little more grit in the playoffs, right? So that every year there's always a little bit of referee controversy, somewhere, some way. Then it's discussed in the off season and results in some new rule change, right? A lot of like the instant replays associated with like high sticks and things like that. have been a result of playoff, referee situations. But you're absolutely right. The game just changes. It's faster. It's quicker. It's grittier. Right? It's a different game. It really is.
Yeah. And they just like in front of the net, like you can literally just like punch someone. In Europe, some of the things that are allowed in the NHL playoffs would result in like actual court cases in European leagues. Like
Yeah.
this is assault. It's not part of the game, and they're
Yeah.
just like, let the boys play. What did he lose? 4 teeth? Well, that's the price. That's the price of
Maybe if it was
winning.
five, we would have called a penalty.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The one thing that drives me every year, what the NHL can't get right, and maybe it's any league, is goaltender interference. It's just, it is crazy. One game, a goalie will be clipped, and they'll call it a goal. The next same game, the same thing will happen. It will be no goal. The level of inconsistency with goaltender interference the past 15 years has been insane. It is every year, and they try to, get better and better, or put some new rule in place, or whatever, and it just seems to just get worse.
The two greatest contact sports in the world, American football and hockey, have the same problem where there is no standardized rule for what actually is a goal and what isn't. And because the NFL can't figure out a catch. Like what? Like that was pass interference, but that was offensive pass
Yeah.
interference and that was defensive. They're doing the same thing. They're just tangled up and one guy gets the ball. Like what? And then the same with the goaltender interference. Like Jesus, I understand that these guys, the super athletes, are going so fast and sliding on ice
Yes.
that in the moment calling it or not calling it interference is really really difficult. But when they check on video, isn't it very clear? Like
You would think so.
you're not meant to be in the blue paint before the goalie's there. And if the goalie is dumb enough to come out of his goal to make the save, then you can touch him. Shouldn't it be that simple?
You would think so, but yeah, unfortunately, just the level of inconsistency is crazy. I don't know what the answer is, but that's part of the game. That's I guess what makes it fun and interesting. It drives the odds makers in Vegas crazy, I'm sure, but it's interesting. And here's my hot take on goaltenders as well. I've always said this for a long time: is when the goalies come out to play the puck, I think goaltenders should be fair game for full contact.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, and goalies would agree with that. You don't go out of the net if you don't want to get hit. Like that's
Exactly. Once you leave your crease, I feel like it's like, you know what? You become part of the flow and the play. And I understand it from like the National, Players Association, right? They want to protect them, right, from a union perspective. They don't want to come out of the net, you get hurt, you lose, your ability to play. But it's like, well, that becomes a decision as a goaltender. Like, do I come out of the net to play this because there's a couple players coming in hard and forechecking, or do I just let this go rim around the boards? Right? I think it changes the dynamic a little.
exactly. And again, parallel to the NFL, all the rules protecting the quarterbacks has led to flopping in a tough sport where it's so against the culture to flop. Same in hockey. We were never taught to flop unless, like, seriously, it's going to win you the game and it's a smart flop, but it was like really rare. And goalies are flopping left and right to get these interference calls. You're a 200-pound, 6 foot 74-inch guy. Like what? How are you falling down right now? It doesn't make any sense. Well, I'm happy we got that off our chest.
Exactly, exactly. I can die a happy man now.
Are we going Eastern Conference first?
You pick.
We'll go East first because Buffalo, I can't believe I'm saying, but there is both Buffalo and Ottawa throughout our youth, like the two most garbage organizations. Ottawa not in our youth, a bit later, but like how are they both in the playoffs?
Well, I tell you what, Buffalo, I think is it the first time in 16 years, 15 years that they're in the playoffs? Something, I forget the exact amount of time, but I think it's an NHL record for the longest playoff drought ever, right? Which is wild. But, I'll say this, I'm very excited for the city of Buffalo, right? I think it's incredible, great for the team, great for the sport generally, I think. But Buffalo they're they're a scary team. Again, they're young, they're big, they're fast. I think their goaltending is the only thing for me. Their goaltending and just their general playoff experience is what is going to be tested in the first round, right? They got a fairly easy matchup in. I don't know what was finalized. It's either going to be Ottawa or Boston that they're matched up against. Boston, I think, is definitely a more difficult team than Ottawa. But they got a very good chance to move on to the next round. And I'm picking the Sabres in six. They're a good team, but what's going to be tested is are they going to be able to conquer the lack of playoff experience, and is their goaltending going to be enough to kind of get them through? Because in the playoffs, you have to, no matter how good your team is, your goaltender has to come up big and make big saves to get you out of certain situations. So those two things will be put to the test, but it's crazy. They're in the playoffs. I'm happy for the team in the city of Buffalo. And I think they got a good shot to at least maybe go to the second round, but we'll see. Like I said, goaltending and experience is going to be the first
Yeah.
round test for them.
It's goaltending and then it's secondary scoring. You need those guys we talked about who in the regular season do nothing and just try to survive.
Oh, yeah.
You need them. Because everyone knows how to double cover like your biggest stars or, put their best players against them on the ice. But then you need those secondary guys to have like out of character performances.
Yeah. Yeah. Who
Yeah.
they remind me of actually is you remember when LA won their first cup, several years ago. They were, I think, the eighth seed, and they got in and they just steamrolled everyone. They kind of, don't get me wrong, they're not an eighth seed. They're number one in the Atlantic, right? Which is great, but they haven't been to the playoffs in 15, 16 years. They're one of those teams that could potentially go on a run if they can stay consistent, like playing consistently like they have been. They could they could potentially go very far, but we'll see. Well, to your point, secondary scoring, goaltending experience, will it be enough? Will it be enough? I don't know.
Just to have some fun here, I'm going to go against you because they are the final matchup. It's Boston, in fact.
Okay, there we go.
If they were going against that other dump, Ottawa, I'd agree with you. But Boston, there's that fuzzy point that I made in the NFL playoffs preview. There's something about this phrase, organizations that know how to win and those that are just considered bad ones. And it shouldn't matter scientifically because it's all different players and coaches and everything. But I don't know. It just seemed to matter. Like the Patriots did beat the Broncos because they just win and the Broncos don't. And I don't know. Maybe there's something there. So I'll go Boston, but it'll go to 7 because they only ever win in 7, right? I'm just doing that for fun, so we have opposite sides of that.
Yeah, my take on all of these picks is I'm probably going to be completely wrong. But hey, you gotta hold yourself accountable to some degree, right?
Yeah. All right, here, be disciplined now, Joey. This is your team. Used to be our team until I switched to the Panthers, and now Utah. Now I've switched to Utah, so Tampa is going against Montreal that we talked about. We have Corey Perry, right, for Tampa. That's the guy to watch, and Kucherov. And Montreal has that young guy, Nick Suzuki, 100 points.
Yeah, look, this is going to be a very fast series. I think they're both quick teams. But look, you said it last. Tampa's got the winning pedigree, right? They've been one of the best teams in the NHL the past 10, 11 seasons. They have Andre Vasilevsky, probably the best goaltender in the world, certainly in the NHL. I think he's going to win the Vezina this year. Lightning at 5 for me. Obviously, again, very biased, but I just think Montreal. I don't know if they have the goaltending and the back end to kind of get them through it, but I think it's going to be a fast series. I think it's going to be a high scoring series for sure. But yeah, no, Lightning are gonna get through this one pretty quick.
Yeah, I'm with you there, actually. I'll say 6 just to say something different. I'll go Lightning in 6, but who's the Montreal goalie nowadays, by the way?
Who is it? Let's look. Who is it?
Enough said, because my point is if we
Yeah,
have to look
yeah,
it up.
exactly.
The matchup is Andrei Vasilevsky versus whoever we need to look up.
Jacob Dobbs, and then they have Jacob Fowler.
2 Jacobs.
Yeah. So, but again, I think they're untested. I mean, they're good goaltenders. I've watched them. Certainly, I mean, they wouldn't be in the playoffs if they didn't have decent goaltending. But again, when you're going up against Andrei Vasilevsky and Nikita Kucherov and Braden Point, I mean, the level of experience with that team, I just think that's tough. That's tough to beat.
Yeah,
So
fair enough. I think you're right. Next one. Who do we have?
Carolina at Ottawa. And I think Carolina, did they take, I think they took the East. I think they were the Eastern Conference champions this year. So they're the top dog in the East coming into it.
They're not gonna win the Stanley Cup again.
No, here's the thing. Here's the thing about Carolina. Fun team to watch, certainly, and they got, what is it, what is his coach? Brendan, I can never say his name. Brendenheimer.
Brindamore.
Brendamore, there we go. Thank you. Great coach, but the problem with Carolina is they don't have, and not that you need it to win, but they don't have really a bona fide star, right? I think they got Aho, who's a great player, but I don't know if they have enough of that kind of star power to kind of, at least that's what's been their issue over the years, is they just haven't had enough scoring to get them to that Stanley Cup. So I mean that's going to be the biggest question. Are they going to be able to get enough scoring, and is their goaltending going to be able to stay hot, come up big, to maybe make up for the lack of scoring that may happen? But who knows? Who knows? But they're a great team. I mean, obviously they're number one in the East for a reason. But again, that's been the same story for the past kind of many seasons, right? They've kind of come up as that top contender in the East, but just can't get over that hump. So the storyline is this that year where they can finally get over it? But we'll see.
This is the one that's gonna falter. Every year, a big favorite in a series falters, and unfortunately, I don't like this. Carolina is always disappointing. Sebastian Aho is a fantastic player. I think it's now or never for him to win this as a star. This is the best and last opportunity he's gonna, I think, have to get this as a superstar of the team. Then he's gonna go into that category of more experienced guys trying to win one on the third line or something. He's not that old. I'm just saying that Carolina they're now the number one overall seed in the East, and I don't think they will be again. So this is his best chance. I don't know. Ottawa, though, no experience. Maybe they'll survive this first round. You think they're gonna sweep it, right?
Yeah, I'm gonna pick every series, every round. I feel like there's somebody who sweeps somebody, and I'm gonna go Hurricanes in four with this one. Ottawa's just, I mean, they got Kachuk and a few others, but they barely got in. They've been kind of inconsistent throughout the year, so I think Hurricanes will eat them up.
Okay, that's interesting. I'm just going complete statistical thing where every year there's a massive shocker, and I'm going this one.
Truth.
So this will be fun.
Fair.
But the best series in the East by far is probably going to be Penguins Flyers, right? Battle of Pennsylvania.
Yes. Yes. Epic battle. Classic rivalry. This is so great for hockey. So great for TV. Like this is amazing. Absolutely love this. Love this, love this, love this. Yeah, I mean, Pittsburgh speaks for itself. It's got star power. I mean, granted, they're older, right? You got Crosby, Malkin, a couple others going up against kind of like some of the new stars, the Michkovs of the Philadelphia Flyers, right? Who are a pretty gritty team, which I think is pretty classic of the Flyers. But this is gonna be great. Look, I picked Penguins in seven, but this can go either way. Philly's coming into the playoffs hot. They came off a big win to get into, just squeak into the playoffs. So this one's a coin toss for me. But I mean, just for the sake of it, I'm going Penguins in seven because Sidney Crosby. But it's a coin toss for me, really.
It's yeah. I think here we're in agreement. I think this is a Sidney Crosby again final moment. That guy has the magic. Sometimes when it's otherwise even, you gotta go with the best player, and the best player is Sidney Crosby, right? This is like the Tom Brady of hockey. Like you don't go against Tom Brady if it's his last season to try to win one, right?
That's right. Yeah, and everyone was kind of saying, oh, you got to give Crosby, trade him to another team where he's got a shot. Like, there's been talk about him going to Colorado because he's best friends with Nate McKinnon, right? But I think he's loyal to the Penguins, and I'm so happy for him because they've had a surprisingly great season, and they're one of those teams that has the veteran experience, and they could go on a run. The bigger question for them is they have who was the Oilers goaltender last year? oh geez, I forget his name, but they had a goaltender swap with the Oilers, and he's always been, granted he got the Oilers to two Stanley Cup Finals, but has never kind of come up with the win. So goaltending may be a little bit of a question, but you know,
Yeah, it's Stuart Skinner.
there you go, there it is.
I always liked him. I don't think those. There's always the narrative with Edmonton was that goaltending is the problem. And all these goalies are so even. The differences are so small that if you fix everything else, I'm not sure. I mean, in the playoffs, maybe that tiny little difference between a really great goalie and a pretty good goalie might expose you. But honestly, I think defense, right? That's where it's at. And any goalie can look good.
Yeah, no, you're right.
And I don't know, it's such a platitude, but it's really it's a 5-on-5 game in the playoffs, and especially it's about 5-on-5 with your not your top line. It's 5-on-5 in the second, third, and fourth lines. I agree that goaltending is important, but it's also a little bit this whole Stuart Skinner narrative from a couple of years ago in Edmonton. I thought that was a cheap excuse.
Yeah, and in fairness too, I think you're making a good point because when you look at Edmonton, which I know we'll get into here in a bit, is they're just they don't have the four line depth. They have basically one incredible line and a second solid line, but they rely so heavily on Draisaitl and McDavid to push them through. And to your point, you don't have that depth and that depth scoring. It's tough. It's tough to win. Obviously, having that good goaltender is going to bail you out or like make some big saves in big moments. But like if you don't have that depth, to your point, like it makes it very, very difficult overall.
Yeah. Interesting, since we moved on to Edmonton and the West. So you don't think McDavid is going to get it done this year either? Because Edmonton in the Western Conference is going against Anaheim, and you have Anaheim winning in seven.
I do. Look, I think this is McDavid's really, I think, last dance in Edmonton. I think maybe he'll have one more, but I think he's if they don't make it happen this year, he's done in Edmonton and he's going to go somewhere else. And I think he's kind of alluded to that in some comments he's made over the past season. But I just think they've been to the Cup, 2 years in a row. They've gone far, they've gone deep, but they're, the playoffs, I mean, you get tired. We saw that with the Lightning, we saw it with the Panthers. The Panthers went 3 years in a row and they didn't make the playoffs this year. They won the Cup last year, not even in the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Granted, they had a lot of injuries, but you get tired, you get broken down, and I just I think Edmonton, my prediction is that they've hit that point.
Yeah.
Now McDavid may feel like he has something to prove, and I think he does, right? He's quote unquote the greatest player in the world, but if you don't have the hardware to support it, right? It's
Yeah. He
that's
still is.
that's
No.
that's oh no
He
no
still is.
he is. Don't get me wrong, but look, I think I question. This is a hot take maybe, and I don't know him, but I question his leadership as well, right? He's the captain, but from what I've seen in like highlights and videos and things and how he reacts, I is the leadership an issue, right? Like he is the most skilled player, the fastest player in the world, and it's incredible to watch. But are those other tools in the toolkit there? I don't know, right? That makes a huge difference in terms of team dynamic and everything else. But that's where I just feel like, and Anaheim's don't. I think they're a decent team, but I feel like this to me is the upset in the West, where everyone's like, oh no, Edmonton's gonna go. So I feel like this is kind of that upset, not the sweep, but I feel like this is for me. This is that for the Western Conference.
With that leadership thing, that's also another like media darling narrative. I think what they're forgetting is that hockey players are just terrible at media and at speaking in public compared to these like confident young NBA players and NFL players. And hockey players are just so much more like grumpy and withdrawn and much more of a team mindset. So I don't think that how you speak in these press conferences necessarily has any.
Well, I don't think it's so much press conferences, but when you see some of these behind the scenes videos that they do, right, where they like kind of you hear them talking in the locker room. And again, this is like purely assumption based. I'm probably wrong, but like from what I've seen, some of these behind the scenes, there's just like there's outbursts and things that, from my own experience playing high level hockey, it's just kind of like that kind of that mindset, the mentality, that type of leadership. And again, this is just purely what I've seen on videos, right? Like it just wears on a team, it wears on individuals. So, but look, maybe I'm wrong again. I'm making this assumption, but I feel like that may be part of this as well. But who knows? Who knows?
Yeah. That's a good point, but I guess the counterpoint, like you look at Alex Barkov, the heart and soul of the Florida team, because he was injured all season, Florida had no chance, and he never even speaks. He's just a lead by example, right, kind of guy. I don't know, maybe now that he's older and speaks English better, he might be a bit more confident, but it's still pretty, he's a quiet, reserved guy. Florida couldn't make it without him. I know the Finnish national team did win a medal without him, but had they played a regular season in the Olympic tournament, Finland wouldn't have even been in it, right?
Fair, fair, fair. But hey, I will say though, something about a quiet leader though. It's kind of like your dad growing up, right? Sometimes your dad doesn't necessarily, say that he's disappointed, but you can just tell, and you don't want to disappoint your dad, right? Or your mom or whatever, right? So like sometimes I think there is something to be said about a quiet leader and not wanting to disappoint and wanting to work hard for dad or quiet leader. I don't know. I think there's something. I think there's something there. At least from my experience, I'd prefer a quiet leader who leads by example, right?
Yeah. No, fair enough. And yeah, in Edmonton, Anaheim, in short, you have the Ducks upsetting them. I think they survive this round. I don't think they'll win the cup though, but I want them to survive this round because honestly, if any casuals have made it this far in the episode, I would say it's visible. Like these guys are so good.
For sure.
McDavid and Draisaitl, all the shit that they get, when you actually watch them as a casual viewer, or like me, who's taken a sort of golf break from hockey or NFL break, and go back into hockey, and you go, oh wow, okay, they are better than everyone else on the ice at all times, all the time. It's crazy.
Yeah. If there's any series for anybody to watch to see pure skill, Edmonton's the one to watch for sure. Because to your point, like McDavid is, I mean, they call him McJesus, right? Like he's insane. His speed, the way it's godlike. So yes, if there's any casual fans listening that watch, be sure to watch a game of the Edmonton Oilers for sure.
Yeah. And especially if they, like Joey says, if they'll only be there for one round, watch this one, yeah, against Anaheim. Next one, Colorado. Actually, they're the 1 seed, are they? Coming from the West, and they're going against the Kings. You have Colorado winning in 5. What is that?
They have so much depth. They have 4 lines. They run 4 lines. They have so much depth. Going back to your point around like you need that bottom six to produce, and they have that. So even if they have some injuries of their top line players, they have depth. They have solid goaltending. Again, a reason why they won the league. President's Trophy as the best team in the league. They have all of the right tools. With that said, President's Trophy winners historically do not come out as reigning champions. I think it's happened a handful of times, but that is a little bit of a curse. So we'll see if that holds true. But yeah, I just think they have too much top bottom talent. Kings just snuck in as the second wild card, so I just think they're gonna. I think Kings will certainly get 1, maybe 2, but I have the Avs in 5.
Yeah, I think you're right. We can agree on that. The Avalanche are taking this comfortably. There, Nathan McKinnon and Mikko Rantanen are probably the 2 guys to watch. Especially the latter. Like Nathan McKinnon, if you've already watched the McDavid, he's maybe looks the same a little bit, but the other one, Mikko Rantanen, number 96, I think he is. Unbelievable movement for such a big, burly boy. Like, really big and dominates the ice. Really good player as well.
So good on the puck, too. He reminds me of Yager a little bit in terms of how he protects the puck. He uses his body really well to protect the puck. Yeah, he's a fun player to watch.
He's in Dallas. Yeah. He's in Dallas. Sorry.
Yeah. That's what we're talking about, right? Oh, were you saying he was on Minnesota?
No, we moved on. Yeah, we moved on from to make it clear he's on Dallas. Yeah.
Yeah. Dallas versus Minnesota. That's right. Yeah. No, and look, I think Dallas. Yeah, they're. I think you mentioned injuries. I think they have some injuries, so that may be an issue leading to the playoffs. But we got about 4 days until the playoffs start, 3 or 4 days. So we'll see. But this is going to be a hell of a series. I have this going to 7 games. Minnesota's hot right now. They've been hot for a while. They're one of the hottest teams in the West coming into the playoffs. Dallas, they've been a great team all season, but they, again, injury prone towards the end there. But this is going to be a incredible battle, heavy, heavy play. It's going to be physical. So I'm looking forward to this one. I got Stars in 7, but similar to the kind of Pittsburgh Philly, it's really a coin toss. But the difference maker here is kind of Dallas's superstars. The Mikko Rantanen, etc. Right? They really got that. So, but Minnesota's got some depth. But it'll be a great series.
And Dallas, I think, have an old guy that we didn't mention. This is from my generation of people, Michael Granlund.
Ah, yeah.
He's a bit older and secondary scoring, and if you watched him in the Olympics for Finland, he was one of the best players in the entire tournament. Quietly just doing the right things, proper veteran stuff. I think he might be a difference maker in this series. From there, I think we agree on Dallas moving on from that, right? You have them in 7. I think it'll be less close than that. We'll go 6 for Dallas. They just have the pedigree. And then this is the exciting one. 2 new teams, Vegas, Utah. Jesus, would you have thought 10 years ago that we'd be talking about a Vegas
No.
versus Salt Lake City matchup in the NHL playoffs? What?
No, I definitely wouldn't have, for sure. I think look, this is going to be another good one. This is going to be another exciting one. I mean, both. The fun thing about Vegas is the recent and shocking firing of their head coach, and they brought on John Tortorella, who I call, Tortellini, from his Lightning days. But I'm a Tortorella fan. I know he's kind of controversial. He's very old school, but I like that, and I think some teams just need that. So I know we haven't mentioned coaching. But I think the difference maker for this series for me might be John Tortorella
Oh
and the
my
Vegas
God,
Golden
yeah.
Knights.
He's
And
a
that's where I'm
bad
putting
guy,
Vegas.
Joey. He's a bad guy.
Come on, but look, I think some teams need that kick in the ass and that old school mentality. So I'm picking Vegas in 5 in this one, but I have a feeling I might be proved wrong. But it'll be a good series.
Yeah. I had a lot of those old cool coaches in my junior career, and one of my friends who played with me became one, and he's like a Tortorella style coach still today in 2026. He's like been head coach for juniors and assistant coach for pros for adults, and like just an old like Russian, half Russian, like old school style. And I don't know. Yes, it's a bit romantic, but as a professional living with someone like that for a whole season, I think it might get a little old.
Well, hey, that's why they brought him in just for the playoffs. So you get just enough of Tortorella, right, to get you through. Full season, to your point, might be a little much, maybe a little much.
Yeah. Do you remember any nasty coaches from your illustrious junior career?
I was fortunate. I had some pretty great coaches who were just very focused on team game and skills, and weren't really. I had no real old school style coaches, so nobody. No, no. I was fortunate. I think that I didn't really have to deal with too much controversy.
Do you remember Viktor Tikhonov?
No.
Oh, he was the Soviet coach for the Red Machine. And he had these guys living like in military barracks where they could call their families like once a day.
That's another level.
If they lost a game, they would just like run sprints for like all night, and because they could
They go
never ever
missing. They go
lose.
missing for a few weeks.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Ugh. The coaching wise, yeah, we didn't mention much. You had a note here though about Buffalo, Lindy Ruff. He's an old name as well.
Yeah, old dog, and I think for this season, John Cooper of the Tampa Bay Lightning was the front runner, and he may still be, but I think Lindy Ruff has to be right there. I mean, getting Buffalo, who hasn't been in the playoffs in many, many, many years, right? Getting this youthful team to come together, and end up winning the Atlantic, like he's gotta be neck and neck with John Cooper. So as much as I love John, Cooper, we got to root for Lindy Ruff, for sure. He
He
seems like
doesn't.
a
John
great
Cooper
guy.
doesn't need to win anything more, you know.
That's true, and that's why I kind of like, yeah, you know what, I'd be okay with Lindy Ruff getting the Jack Adams.
John Cooper could go really prove it and go back to lacrosse and win something there, eh? If you want to be a tough guy. Wait, did he? He came from lacrosse, right? I'm not making that up.
Yeah, he went to Hofstra in Long Island, I think, and he got his legal degree. Fascinating story. Played lacrosse, never played competitive hockey, really. Played in like beer league, and then got into coaching hockey. Like started coaching I think one of his legal or lawyer friends' teams, and then just took off from there. It's a real Cinderella story. It's crazy. Great, his story is probably primed for a solid hockey movie. It has to be.
Yeah, I know, and I did fall in love with the whole scene when he came in, and I already had this Florida hockey thing. Like, who cares about Florida hockey? Always on the second channel of the TV, never the prime Canadian matchups. I was always like, the winners are gonna come from here, and they have this guy coaching who's like a lacrosse guy. Like, what is going on here? I bet Tampa's gonna win everything, and they did. You know, of course
Yep.
they did.
Yep.
There, it's the lacrosse magic. Hey, I want to finish with a little bit of slagging of Toronto, which you also had on your fantastic spreadsheet here. Cup picks, though. Do you have? We've covered all the initial series. Who's going to make it all the way through? What do you think?
Do I have to say? It should be blatantly obvious, Danny.
No, no. I mean, you're going with Tampa. Yeah, yeah.
I have to go with Tampa. And I'm not just. I do think this year they actually have a decent shot. Unlike the last few years, they've gone out in the first round. Because I do think this is their last hurrah. Really, I mean, I said that last year, but I have to stick with them. I'm a diehard fan. That is my pick. But with that said, if I'm going to pick a secondary, if the Lightning are out, I'm going to go with the Colorado Avalanche.
Yeah, that's really fair. Tell you what, from the East, if my theory is right and Carolina falters, then I don't see that they have to go through much of a gauntlet. So I think they'll make it through from the East. So I'll go with you, Tampa in the finals. And who will they lose to from the West? Because I think they'll finish second so that we get that Corey Perry curse.
There we
I want to keep that narrative going. I mean, the West is a nightmare to predict. Any of these teams could make it.
It is.
I mean, if I really went with my heart, I'd go Utah because that's where I've switched now, but I can't. They're not there yet. Oh, the Finns are going to take it. It's Dallas.
All right. I think that's a good pick. I think that's a good pick.
It's the actual Finnish national team, is the Dallas Stars. I don't know what the hell they fielded in the Olympics, but this is the one to watch.
There you go.
This is the Finnish national team. Hey, Toronto Maple Leafs, we have to discuss just for the aggregators, because if we have a hockey episode and we don't mention the Maple Leafs, it's not going to be anywhere.
That's right.
Yeah, yeah, like, no, it doesn't count. I've been following this for, what, 10, 15 years now? I don't know why. I mean, every year it's a narrative just because the Toronto media for hockey is that's what drives the stories. But this is the same thing, right? You're paying your top players too much. You don't have any depth, or is it different this year?
It was an epic fall of the Toronto Maple Leafs, right? Everyone thought they were on the up and up, especially once they broke through the first round a couple years ago and they got to the second round, right? It was like, we're on our way, right? That was, again, like the narrative there with the Toronto media. But they made some moves in the offseason that were questionable in terms of defensive moves and depth. Obviously, Mitch Marner left, and him and Austin Matthews were very tight and played great together. So some questionable moves overall, but look, it's rebuild time. I mean, they could get a very high draft pick, right? As a result of kind of being at the bottom of the barrel this year. But I think they're going into rebuild mode. I mean, they have to. I think Austin Matthews is a bona fide superstar. Is potentially could catch Ovechkin if he plays in the league long enough in terms of goal scoring prowess.
Never.
But I think he's potentially on the trade block. So It's going to be interesting in the offseason to see what moves they make. But again, it's Toronto Maple Leafs. I love the story. I love to see the Toronto Maple Leafs not make the playoffs. I love to see them exit the playoffs early. They're the greatest team to hate of any team in the NHL, and the media just perpetuates that for sure.
Yeah, it's like the media would die without this. There'll be like 600,000 hockey Twitter accounts would go to zero if they don't have this narrative every year. So hockey needs the Maple Leafs to suck. Yeah.
No, they do. It's going to be an interesting offseason. Don't get me wrong, I would love to see them actually. I think it's great for hockey if they are in the playoffs, right? And it creates controversy, but it's time for them. You gotta shuffle. You gotta make some moves, rebuild because it's not working. And I mean it hasn't been working for a very long time, but it's time. It's time. Yeah, retool,
The rebuild.
retool.
You gotta let these people go, all of them, yeah, and just try again. Like you had this generation that sold untold amounts of TV ads, and we're not talking about tickets because tickets in Toronto will have been sold 15 years ago already in advance. But you've made untold amounts of media money off of these guys, but they never won anything. It's time. Just let them go, right?
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with rebuilds nowadays. You see it. I mean, the several teams in the playoffs this year went through rebuilds only a handful of years ago. It doesn't take long nowadays if you make the right moves.
Yeah.
But you got to have a good GM in place to help you get to that point. So we'll see.
Yeah. But them not being in it at all, though, kind of hurts the league. Like, I know the narrative is funny and everything, and it'll be there, but it would be ideal if they made the playoffs and then were a favorite in a series and then lost.
100%. No, viewership. I mean, the fandom they got a huge, I mean, giant following. I mean, they're Canada's team, right? But it is. I mean, as a Toronto hater, I do love to see them out. But for the greater good of hockey, it is great for them to be in.
Yeah. And to be honest, like with that performance this year in all those playoff series we just looked at, I'm not missing them. I don't miss them in any of those. I'm happy that like whatever team is there is more interesting to see in those series. So
Yeah, we got some good matchups this year. I think this is going to be a great playoffs, Stanley Cup playoffs this year with some epic battles and some long series.
Dallas, Tampa in the finals. That's the dream.
There we go.
Yeah, and hey, give us we'll put all the links in the description because aviation we haven't discussed at all. But do you have like a dream destination if you had to fly to a Tampa away game? Where are we flying?
Tampa away game. Where am I going? Let me think about this. So I also have to put in perspective what would be an incredible flight in terms of views, challenges. So I probably would have to go somewhere out west and somewhere I haven't been, right? So I think where I haven't been to a game is Colorado. So I think if I was to pick, I would probably go Colorado. Some beautiful landscape, some challenging flying, high altitude flying. And who doesn't want to go to the Mile High City, right? So I
Yeah,
think Denver would be that
Denver would be
destination.
cool. No, I'm with you. Flight trackers have gone nuts recently. We're not going to mention why. We're not going to mention the WAR, but have you been doing what I've been doing, which is just all these civilians all over the world with US bases just tracking all the cool airplanes lifting off and landing everywhere?
Occasionally, there's this app called Sky Cards. Have you heard of this? I'm not plugging Sky Cards by any means,
Oh,
but
we can
Sky
plug them. Yeah.
Sky yeah, check it out. Sky Cards. I think it's by Flight Radar 24, and it's basically exactly that, where you can track all these aircraft, but you can catch them almost like a Pokemon, right? You can catch them and like collect. You could collect the cards and everything. It's pretty cool. As an aviation nerd, every time I see a cool airplane, I'm like, oh, I gotta catch this, right? I feel like a 15-year-old Pokemon nerd. But yes, so I've been doing some casual tracking with the craziness of the world right now.
Yeah, yeah. It's so fun. All right. Hey, Joey, it's hockey season. This is exciting.
Let's go.
Joseph Marshall's awesome YouTube channel with some flying around with his family and stuff. Love that. Listen to Joey's other episode. Go down the catalog and follow, subscribe, all that jazz, the internet buttons, send emails to the hate mail address. Everything's in the description. Thank you so much for your time, Joey. This is going to be fun.
It's been my pleasure, and once those UFO files are released, I look forward to be back on.
Yes. Yes, next one UFOs. I promise. Next one UFOs. 'Cause you need a hobby after hockey ends, right?
You ain't kidding. You ain't kidding. Thanks, Danny. I really appreciate it, man.
All right.